Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the CR2C2 Student Leadership Council's Leadership Training Workshop 2026. It's wonderful to see so many enthusiastic faces here today. I would like to begin by extending my sincere gratitude to the CR2C2 management for their unwavering support in making this council and this event possible. I would also like to thank our partners, the IT student chapter at North Carolina A&T State University and the University of Alabama for their collaboration in expanding our reach and for their generous hospitality during some of our sessions. My name is Komal Gulati. I am a PhD student in electrical engineering and a research assistant at CR2C2, and I'm currently serving as the chair of the Student Leadership Council. For those who are joining us for the first time, I would like to take a moment to introduce the council. The CR2C2 Student Leadership Council was established in October 2024, and in just over a year, we have grown into an active and impactful community. We have organized leadership workshops, participated in K 12 outreach events led by CR2C2, and made our presence felt at major national conferences, including TRB, Transportation Research Board, and ASCE, where our members have presented cutting edge transportation research. Beyond research, our members have also demonstrated exceptional leadership from being selected for the prestigious ENO Leadership Development Conference in Washington, D.C., and also to receive scholarships and recognitions from organizations such as Nexite, ASCE, and WTS state chapters. At its core, the SLC is a consortium of 7 universities across the southeastern United States, united by a shared vision empowering students leaders to drive transportation innovation, foster entrepreneurship, and shape future mobility systems across the Southeast. Our mission is to connect students with regional and national transportation leaders, facilitate cutting edge research, and develop technology driven mobility solutions for both rural and urban communities. Our work is guided by 6 core values: regional collaboration, transportation innovation, entrepreneurial spirit, community impact, leadership development, and academic excellence. And everything we do reflects those values. And today's workshop is a testament to that mission. And I'm incredibly proud of what this council has accomplished and excited about where we are headed. Thank you all for being here, and I hope today is both enriching and inspiring for everyone. Now, I would like some of our SLC leaders to share some of their experiences in this journey. And then I would like to hand it over to Javier to introduce our today's speaker. And our SLC leaders, Lynn and Sohela, are you there?
Yes, Komal.
Yeah,
Hi,
go ahead.
everybody. Good afternoon. So I just share very briefly my experience. My name is Sohela. I would say being part of the SLC has been really positive experience for me, as many of us are really busy with research and coursework. We don't have really uh, time to connect with professional outside academia. So through SLC, I have had the chance to take a responsibility, get more involved, and connect with others beyond my usual academic work. So I really grateful for this opportunity, and I would thank you, Komal, and the other team members that provide this opportunity for me that to engage more with this kind of activities.
Thank you, Kuma, for your inviting me to share my experience. So my name is Lim Pang. I'm from University of Georgia, and I'm a PhD student majoring in engineering and a research assistant. So in my first year with CR2C2 and the SLC, I'm focused on 2 tasks. One is research, another is doing some student leader services. On the research side, I'm collaborating with Dr. Pandy and Kuma on community-oriented mobility modeling from essential trips like the healthcare and the food access. So on the SLC side, our monthly meetings help us align on priorities and plans, translating ideas into clear tasks and timelines and follow-up. So my biggest learning is that structured, consistent follow-up makes the multitasking durable. And our meeting from in person at the TRB meeting with everyone at this SLC was incredibly helpful for us. to connection and the momentum. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Wonderful. Javier, please go ahead and introducing our today's speaker.
Yeah, thank you, our members, for the introduction. And right now, I will start by introducing our speaker, Mr. Gallo Bowen, who is the Vice President of Business Operation at Rinker Design Associates, a Trillion Group company. He focuses on strategy, operational efficiency, and growth for a 250-person civil engineering firm delivering transportation and infrastructure projects across Virginia and Mid-Atlantic. With over a decade of experience expanding structural engineering, technology consulting, and executive operation, Gallo has supported infrastructure initiatives and collaboration with state and public sector agencies. Gallo has served as chair of the ASCE Transportation and Development Institute Mobility and On-Demand and as a Service Committee, which provides forum for practitioners, researchers, and public agencies to exchange perspectives on evolving mobility models. The committee's work centered on sharing knowledge related to emerging technologies, planning considerations, and deployment challenges of mobility on demand and as a service. And what are their social implications? Gallo is the author of Mobility 2040, exploring the emerging trends radically transforming transportation systems in the US, a book published in 2021. And I personally, I know him from participating on the ASC Moras Committee, and I am a witness of his talent on managing projects. He is very organized, very clear on what the steps to follow. And this opportunity, I consider, is a unique one because we will learn from an engineer on what other areas of practice engineers can develop their future careers. So welcome, Gallo. Without further ado, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Javier, and thank you for your kind words and generosity there. I'll be speaking a little bit about my involvement with the committee and then having Javier as a co-chair there as well, instrumental to all the work that we're doing. But again, I'm going to start sharing my screen, and then if you could just let me know once you can see it, that would be great. I should be sharing right now, but please let me know if you cannot see it.
We can see it, Gallo.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So again, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to join this leadership training workshop. My name is Gallo Bowen, and I am really excited to, spend this session with you talking about strategic leadership in transportation operations. And I'm not going to go over my background because I think, again, Javier covered it really well. And we're going to be talking about, different lessons from engineering, operations, leadership, and industry research. That's my goal here. So again, I want to share, there's a couple of goals that I would like to cover over the next 40 minutes or so. One being sharing real world perspective from transportation and infrastructure leadership and how that actually looks like today. Not so much on the theoretical side, but based on what I have seen on my day-to-day in our operations and what I hear from colleagues in the industry. Second, I would like to highlight some of the, specific skills and traits that are driving success in today's civil engineering industry. The landscape, as you all know, has changed dramatically. The skills that made engineers successful, say 20 years ago, while they're still very important, they aren't sufficient anymore. I would also like to explore how strategic leadership and operations are what actually turn ideas into real world impact. And this is the bridge between, the great concepts that we develop and the infrastructure that actually gets built and serves communities. And finally, I would also like to connect emerging transportation trends to practical decision making and career development, right? So throughout all of this, I would like to focus on, again, connecting engineering education to leadership, operations, and industry impact. So let me give you some context for the operational environment that I am speaking from here. So again, at Rinker Design Associates or RDA, we are a 250 person civil engineering consulting firm with a Virginia and a Mid-Atlantic footprint. We are part of the larger Trillium Group family of firms, which now encompasses about 5,700 people across 14 different companies spread across the country. This means that this gives us exposure to different markets, different approaches, and significant operational scale. Now, our focus is primarily on transportation, infrastructure, and what I have learned is that, scale fundamentally changes how engineering work gets done, right? So when you're working in this context, you're not just dealing with technical challenges, you're also dealing with operational systems, project coordination across multiple offices, and deliver challenges that can spend months, if not years. So, this exposure to operational systems has taught me that, again, technical work is at the foundation of everything that we do. But the complexity comes again from coordinating that technical work across teams, managing client relationships, navigating the regulatory process, and really ensuring that projects actually get delivered on time and on budget. Now, the operational reality is that most of the challenges that we face today are not purely technical. Again, there are coordination challenges, communication challenges, leadership challenges. But with that, again, this brings me to this critical point, which is that transportation projects are getting significantly more complex. So let me walk you through those key factors driving this complexity, right? So first, we're seeing that increasing stakeholder involvement and public visibility. Now, every project involves multiple agencies. You have community groups, environmental advocates, and other stakeholders. And with social media, right, as you might all know, there's increased public engagement. Every decision is scrutinized in ways that it was never before. So, what used to be a technical discussion between engineers and their immediate clients now involves extensive public input, right, and coordination across multiple interest groups. Second, there are growing expectations as well around safety, sustainability, equity. Clients, communities, and regulatory agencies expect not just that we will deliver a project, but that we will deliver measurable outcomes in all of these areas, right? So, a transportation project today needs to demonstrate how it improves safety, how it reduces environmental impact, and serves, again, all the community equitably. Another challenge that we're seeing is with funding and schedule constraints that increasingly, shape project decisions. We're talking about public funding cycles, federal requirements, community priorities that create these timing pressures that affect how we approach the technical work. And last but not least, there's of course the rapid advancement in mobility, technology, and data tools. Um, and especially these days are all around AI, right? So the standards that we follow and even the fundamental assumptions about how, transportation systems work, um, those are evolving constantly, right? So a simple intersection improvement today might need to accommodate, connected vehicles, collect real-time data, traffic data, and integrate with regional transportation management systems, right? So again, most of the challenges that we face today are not strictly technical. They're about, like I mentioned earlier, coordination, communication, stakeholder management, among other things. Now, the technical work, of course, remains critical, but it is embedded in a much more complex operational environment. So now I'd like to share a little bit of how my own role has evolved over time, because I also think it's tied to, again, those increasing challenges or how the industry has been evolving over time, right? So again, like many engineers, I started with a technical foundation in structural engineering and bridge engineering more specifically. So really more on the, problem solving discipline. My focus was on design quality, understanding codes, standards, developing strong analytical skills. And this technical foundation was, absolutely critical. And it's what gave me credibility and the ability to understand, the work that our teams are doing. Now, over time, I, developed also what you would call operational awareness. So becoming involved in project coordination, schedule management, budget oversight, and really understanding how project delivery actually works. I found myself spending as much time thinking about how to coordinate teams and manage timelines as I did on technical analysis. I also worked in technology consulting and infrastructure adjacent industries, right? So really just broadening my understanding of operational models and developing a systems perspective. I started working at the intersection of engineering, technology, and operations to understand how these different elements shape project delivery. And this involved learning about project management systems, again, communication, protocols, and really how to optimize workflows across different disciplines and offices. And next, again, came more on the, leadership, strategy responsibilities, you would say. So supporting teams across multiple projects and contributing to organizational decision making. So this meant thinking about, and we'll talk about this throughout the presentation, resource allocation, capability development, and really how to align individual projects with broader organizational goals. And now my focus is really on scale, impact, enabling, broader organizational performance across our, firm here in Northern Virginia and within the larger Trillion Group platform. But I would say that the constant evolution has been, throughout this evolution has been, again, engineering judgment, accountability, and of course, service to the public, right? Now, I want to be very clear here that there is no single right path. This was just my path, what I just described, but there's multiple in civil engineering and really broader engineering careers. Many engineers end up moving toward, management and leadership roles. Others, and we have many here at Rinker Design, remain deeply technical throughout their careers. That's what they love doing. They become subject matter experts, and thought leaders in their specializations. And again, truly speaking, both paths are absolutely essential to the profession. Operation and management, those exist to support technical excellence, not to replace it. The goal is to create an environment where great technical work can happen efficiently and effectively. And I also want to emphasize that professional licensure, we're talking about, PE, your PE license, that also reinforces our fundamental responsibility to the public, regardless of which career path we choose, whether you are doing technical analysis or leading large organizational initiatives, that professional responsibility remains central. But again, there's a caveat to that because there's some disciplines that in my case, it worked more because I focus on the traditional, you could say, civil engineering design discipline, where a PE kind of reinforces that responsibility. It might not be applicable to others. So I just want to share that nuance, right? So again, the key takeaway here is that impact looks different for everyone. For some people, it means leading large teams, complex projects. For others, it means solving difficult technical problems that enable better infrastructure. And for others, it means maybe just, also mentoring younger engineers or advancing the state of the art in their specialty, right? So again, multiple definitions of success, multiple paths, and the profession needs people pursuing all of them, really. So what are the skills that, in my view, civil engineers need to be successful today? And again, many of these apply not only to the civil engineers specifically, but broader careers, disciplines. So let me walk you through some of these key areas. And again, keeping in mind that, first and most importantly, you absolutely must have strong technical fundamentals. You need to understand the engineering principles, codes and standards, problem-solving methods that are core to the profession. But again, technical skill alone is not sufficient for the impact that most engineers want to have. Strategic thinking is increasingly important. This means that being able to align individual projects with long-term goals, understanding how your work fits into broader systems, right? Making decisions that consider both immediate needs and future implications. Leadership and collaboration are also critical. Even if you never manage people directly, you will be needing to lead project teams, coordinate with other disciplines, and really influence outcomes through collaboration rather than authority, right? And again, in today's complex project environment, these leadership skills are essential at every level. Communication and stakeholder management are also increasingly important. So you need to be able to explain complex technical concepts to non-technical audiences, right? And this can be a challenge. Build support for projects, coordinate across multiple agencies, help communities understand better, what's behind all these developments. Professional judgment and ethics, of course, that remains at the core of everything that we do. And in an environment of increasing complexity and public scrutiny, the ability to make decisions that, again, protect public safety, build trust is more important than ever. Adaptability and learning agility, also essential in an environment of rapid change, like the one that we live these days. The specific technologies and methods that we use, those will continue to evolve, but, the ability to quickly learn and adapt to new approaches that will be valuable throughout your career. Data and technology literacy are also becoming fundamental skills. You don't need to be a software developer, but you need to understand how data and technology can improve engineering outcomes and how to work effectively with digital tools and data-driven decision making. Innovation and continuous improvement, they represent an entrepreneurial mindset, right? So this means looking for ways to improve processes, solve problems more effectively, and really deliver better outcomes for clients and communities. And finally, ownership and accountability. That just means taking responsibility for outcomes, not just specific technical tasks. This means thinking about the bigger picture and how your work contributes to project success and public benefit. And, here are some quick, I don't want to spend too much time here, but these are some of the capabilities that I just went over. Maybe some concrete examples of what these skills look like when they are applied to real world engineering challenges, right? So strategic thinking means again aligning projects with long-term transportation operational goals. So if you're designing, say, an intersection, we're not just solving today's traffic problems, but we are considering how that intersection will function as the area develops, how it will accommodate future transportation technologies, how it might fit into our regional transportation planning initiatives, right? Leadership might mean helping a multidisciplinary, again, team coordinate effectively when everyone is working under tight deadlines, or it might mean helping a client understand the trade-offs between different approaches when budgets are limited. Communication could involve presenting technical findings to a city council, right? Facilitating coordination between a state DOT staff and local officials, or again, just helping our communities understand how a proposed project will affect their daily travel patterns, for example, right? Adaptability, maybe a major project gets delayed due to environmental review, and then you need to reallocate team resources, or maybe new federal funding becomes available with different requirements. So the ability to really adjust your approach while maintaining quality and team morale is critical and yet challenging. Technology, literacy, this could involve again analyzing a traffic count data to optimize signal timing, or using project management software to, coordinate complex schedules, or even incorporating, say GIS analysis into transportation planning. And ownership, instead of saying completing your assigned technical analysis, you're thinking about how that analysis will serve the overall project goals, right? And then looking for ways to improve the process for future similar projects. So again, these are skills that are what separate good technical work from engineering leadership, which is what drives real impact. And now I would just like to show you, how these skills come together in practice, right, through a specific project and a case study in, again, the Northern Virginia area. And the challenge for this project was significant. This is one of the busiest interchanges in Northern Virginia, serving over 300,000 vehicles daily. The existing interchange had really serious, safety and capacity issues, but any construction had to maintain traffic flow through one of the region's most critical transportation corridors. Now, strategic thinking helped here, right? Because it shaped our entire approach. So instead of using the traditional, design, bid, build process, we embraced Virginia's first progressive design build project, which meant that, this was a deliberate strategic choice that enabled early collaboration between the owner, the designer, and the contractor to optimize solution before finalizing the project scope. And again, also like saving time and going the back and forth that you would normally undergo through the innovative traditional delivery methods, right? So leadership, that meant bringing people together to make real-time decisions. We led integrated design charrettes that brought VDOT, our construction partner, and our design teams into the same room to work through complex technical challenges collaboratively. And again, this wasn't just coordination, but this was active leadership to align different organizations around a shared solution. Communication was also critical because we had so many stakeholders with different priorities. So we had to coordinate across VDOT, operation staffs, express lanes, tolling systems, the local communities concerned about construction impacts, environmental agencies overseeing all the work near the river. So each group needed different information and had different concerns. And again, adaptability, that also proved essential when our initial concept showed potential conflicts. So when we realized that our original ramp design would require major reconstruction of an existing express lane bridge, we quickly developed alternative alignments using different design speeds. So again, working collaboratively with VDOT, we selected the design criteria that met operational and but also safety goals while avoiding the need for costly design exceptions, right? And the results demonstrate how leadership really amplifies technical excellence. We achieved, $4 million in construction cost savings, but avoiding that bridge reconstruction. The project is delivering, 20 to 30% faster than traditional processes. We maintain critical express lanes operations throughout the construction, and most importantly, we also established this, progressive design build as a viable tool for future Virginia projects. Um, so again, the technical engineering work on this project was excellent. Our teams did outstanding work on roadway design, structural analysis, traffic operations, and environmental compliance. But the breakthrough results really came through strategic thinking, right, about project delivery, leadership that enabled collaboration across firms, organizations, communication that helped align stakeholders early on, and again, adaptability when challenges emerge. So this is what I mean when I say that technical excellence enables solutions, but it's really leadership and some of the skills here that um, deliver breakthrough results. Now I'd like to talk about something that many engineers don't necessarily learn in school, right? But that it is important to understand how the industry actually works. Some of the business metrics that drive engineering organizations, and this is not intended to be a finance class by or workshop by no means, but I just believe that providing that extra color might be helpful. So again, starting at the top with net service revenue or NSR that measures the value of professional services delivered, right? So this isn't just about billing clients, it's about the revenue generated through engineering work that supports the organization's ability to invest in people, technology, and capabilities. We have backlog, which represents contracted work that is not yet performed. So this is, a key indicator of future workload stability. Strong backlog gives organizations confidence to maintain teams and invest in new capabilities. And, if capacity and workload aren't aligned, teams can burn out or just sit idle, which is something that we try to avoid as much as possible. We want to effectively deploy teams and make good use of its technical expertise. Because again, this isn't just about making money, but it's about creating the operational health that enables consistent, high quality engineering work. So understanding these fundamentals, these business fundamentals, help engineers make better decisions about how to spend their time, which projects to prioritize, and really how to position their work for maximum impact. And here I would just like to expand a little bit on these metrics and why, I want to emphasize that, again, this is about insight, not just definitions. And, metrics are signals that inform leadership and decision making. Again, backlog tells us whether we're headed toward future delivery pressure or whether we have room to take on new work. So it's more like a forward-looking indicator, right? Staffing capacity that helps us see imbalance early before it turns into burnout on one end or underutilization on the other. And both of these can be harmful to teams and harmful to projects. And again, NSR reflects the financial sustainability too of the organization. So when NSR is healthy, firms can invest in people, tools, innovation. When it's not, everything, becomes harder. So the key idea here is that metrics provide visibility, but it's ultimately leadership that provide the judgment, right? Metrics, they will tell you what may happen, but leadership decides what to do about it. So, leaders, they use these operational indicators to, again, anticipate workload shifts. Maybe they need to adjust staffing before imbalance becomes a crisis, protect project continuity, support sustainable performance, and really ensure that teams have what they need to deliver excellence. And here's a real example of, again, this operational foresight that had a direct impact on engineering outcomes. So first, it's important to say that, perfect balance almost never exists, right? So workload shifts, projects pause, new opportunities open up, and this is all completely normal. And, every firm deals with these periods of softness or surge, right? The key is not to panic when you see it, but just to recognize early and then see if you can adjust thoughtfully, right? So, see it more of, in this case, our forecasting showed that, firm A, and there's two firms involved here, and this is in the context of Trillium Group because, again, we're a family of firms, right? Even though we all remain independent, we always try to, leverage this business model in order to help each other out, right? So our forecasting showed that, one of the firms would soon have a surplus of around, say, 10 to 12 full-time staff. Again, this is not a crisis, just the natural, peak and valleys of project cycles. And at the same time, another firm, another sister firm within our platform had more work that they could staff, right? And we had this visibility 2 to 3 months in advance. And again, this wasn't an emergency, but it was more of an opportunity to rebalance resources proactively, right, in a healthy and intentional way. So what we did is we mapped our backlog, which is again our contracted work that hasn't been, delivered or worked on, and also the pipeline, which are again all the potential work that we try to quantify as well, right? Um, and we did that for both firms. We compared the demand versus the capacity. We coordinated across the two firms, the resourcing needs. We checked that the skills available lined up, of course, with the skills needed. And then what we did is that we reallocated the staff proactively, right, from firm A to firm B. And what I mean by reallocating, I'm not saying that they physically reallocated, just meant that, again, by having common systems, we were able to have staff from one firm support another company project for the other company, right? So in a way, it was a win-win situation, right? So utilization stayed stable in firm A. Delivery continuity also improved in firm B. Um, we avoided this, reactive hiring or last minute, reshuffling in order to deliver to what we had agreed with the client. So again, clients, they experience uninterrupted service. And also very importantly is that teams stay motivated, right? They support it, fully engaged on both sides. And this might sound like an operational detail, but it had very real engineering consequences. Again, project schedules held, technical quality stayed strong, and people were able to do their best work without unnecessary stress. So that's the point precisely that, operations isn't about just catching problems, but it's about supporting people and creating the conditions for, great engineering to happen. So now I'd like just to transition here to how learning beyond my immediate job responsibilities can also, accelerate career and increase impact. And again, Javier was mentioning this earlier about my involvement with the ASCE Transportation and Development Institute, Mobility on Demand and as a Service Committee. I think that's a great example. And throughout this, leadership role, I have had the collaboration, opportunities again across academia, public agencies, and private firms that I wouldn't have in my day-to-day consulting work. And, this gives me awareness of new technologies, regulations and deployments that are happening across the country and internationally. We focus on the dissemination of research and findings on mobility on demand and as a service impacts for travelers, which means that I am constantly learning about pilot projects or potential policy developments and technology advances that affect how people move around cities and regions. We also have a conference participation and research review, which also expands professional perspectives in ways that directly, also benefit my operational work at RDA. Understanding emerging trends also helps me anticipate, client needs, identifying, new service opportunities. Um, we recently sponsored a session at the 2025, well, that was last summer, as a matter of fact, at the ICTD conference, the International Conference on Transportation Development in Arizona. And you can see the photo on the right-hand side that it's too small. So I don't know if that's the one that Javier was presenting, because Javier graciously had a presentation of his own, but also served as the moderator for another session. So shout out to him again here. And, this type of engagement keeps, connected to cutting edge research while also building relationships across the industry. And most recently, last November, we had our committee organize a 90-minute webinar where experts from Europe, Africa, and the US are really bringing that international global perspective. They shared experiences with mobility as a service deployment, discussing what worked, what has not worked, and most importantly, how these lessons can inform the evolution of MAS in diverse contexts. And here the key lesson is that professional engagement helps engineers anticipate industry change, and industry engagement also help engineers understand future transportation challenges, right? So this learning doesn't just benefit your individual career, but it also makes you more valuable to your organization and more effective at serving clients and communities. So again, not all learning happens inside your organizations, and some of the most valuable learnings can be outside of there. And then here again, writing Mobility 2040, almost 5 years ago now, I think it's another good example of learning beyond immediate responsibilities that has paid dividends in many great ways. And in a way, this is tied, and maybe I should have started with this before, because by interviewing professionals in the industry, public agencies, that's kind of what led me to become aware of the ASE committee, and that's what led me to join it in the first place. So again, at the end of the day, you'll be surprised how a conversation, uh, a simple conversation can go a lot farther, right? And this book just explores how technology, data, they all intersect in future transportation systems. And what this did is it really forced me to synthesize research from multiple disciplines and think about how emerging trends might actually play out in practice. It highlights innovative solutions across, for sustainable, equitable, efficient mobility, which has made me more effective at, even helping clients here. Talk about public and private partnerships, multi-stakeholder collaboration, which also directly applies to the complex project environments that we work every day. So really, by breaking down these complex trends into actionable perspectives for engineers and leaders, the writing process really helped me develop better communication, strategic thinking skills. But, most importantly, it encourages forward-looking thinking, right? To anticipate what these infrastructure challenges could be. Now, the research and writing process, I would say that it also reinforced, something important. And again, is that engineers shape the future by sharing knowledge and insights, and research and thought leadership help translate trends in practice, right? And yeah, and this book also, open speaking consulting opportunities that have expanded my professional network beyond the ASE committee, creating new learning opportunities. So again, it's a perfect example of how investing in learning beyond your immediate job requirements can create unexpected value for both your career and your ability to serve clients and communities. So, what does all this mean for students and early career engineers? So there's a couple of recommendations that, I would like to close this with. So again, first, be curious and adaptable. Seek opportunities beyond your immediate tasks. Don't just go do your assigned work and go home, but pay attention to how projects are managed, how client relationships work, and how your technical work fits into broader organizational goals. Second, build leadership skills early. So you don't need to be in management position to influence outcomes, right? Leadership is about taking responsibility, coordinating with others, and thinking about the bigger picture. Start developing these skills now at any stage of your career. Um, Third, think beyond your discipline, understand operation, strategy, stakeholder needs. So the most successful engineers are those who can work effectively across disciplines and understand how their technical work serves broader goals. Focus on impact. Remember that ideas, again, don't change infrastructure, but it's people and leadership that do. So the value of your technical expertise is realized through its application to real world challenges that serve communities. Leverage your skills. So technical expertise plus professional judgment and ethics is what enables real world results. Your technical foundation is critical, but it's a combination with professional skills that create impact. And finally, again, embrace innovation thoughtfully. So new solutions succeed when they are executed well. Focus on understanding how innovation can be implemented effectively to solve real problems. And the key insight is that, your choices and actions turn ideas into impact. Your career is something that you design through the decisions you make about what skills to develop, what experiences to seek, and really how to position yourself to serve the public interest. And again, I would just like to conclude with four key takeaways that I think capture the essence of what we discussed today. So first, infrastructure improvements, they require strong teams and leadership. The technical work is absolutely fundamental, but again, it's leadership coordination that turn this technical excellence into infrastructure that serves communities. Professional skills amplify technical expertise. Your engineering foundation is critical, but again, communication, leadership, operations is what enable you to have a broader impact. Operational excellence is what allows projects to succeed at scale. Understanding the business, the organization, the operational fundamentals of engineering organizations helps you make better decisions and contribute more effectively to project success. And finally, it's the transportation industry is constantly evolving, right? And engineers help lead that change, right? So by staying curious, building diverse skills, and engaging with a broader professional community, you can help shape the future of transportation and infrastructure. So, and engineering in general, right? So the fundamental insight is that ideas shape the future only when leadership turns them into action. And that's precisely where each one of you comes in. So with that, that brings me to the end of my formal presentation, and really happy to answer any questions that the audience may have.
Thank you so much, Carlo. Is there any questions you can drop in the chat, or maybe you can unmute and ask?
I have a question. First of all, thank you, Galo, for the presentation. Very interesting to see all those concepts that are not usually common for engineers. And my question is, I understand that your civil engineer profession led you to later become operations manager. And I was wondering if there was a point on time where you realized, okay, at this moment I am departing from the technical part and starting to go more into the operational part of the companies. And if after that moment you felt that something you know or if at that moment you needed to create new skills. You mentioned, for example, communication skills, working with teams. Probably before that point, you didn't need that because you were on a technical background, something that you might have been trained for during your university time. But after that, you started to be more involved on operational decisions, and then you say, okay, I need to start learning all those soft skills that you mentioned. If there was like a point in time, or it was more naturally, and in that case, we might be confident that we will gain those skills along the time, or you will recommend start from now, seeking those opportunities to learn those soft skills. What is kind of your recommendation on that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you, Javier. Great question. Yeah, in my personal case, I was enjoying the technical work that I was doing and I always did, right? But then I noticed that, and for example, just looking at my supervisor back then, she was involved in a lot more of project meetings or client meetings, and she would bring me there. And then you start seeing how, you know, comparing to her and then how she's interacting with the client. So I knew that I wanted to also make that step up in my career. And I knew that in order to do that, I needed to build some foundational skills outside of technical, right? So I think it was the moment that I knew that, again, I just didn't want to stay in a technical track 100%. That made me think, okay, so what are the different skills that I need to learn outside of that, right? And part of that was just start shadowing more of the work and really having a pretty open and transparent conversation with my supervisor back then and say, hey, so what do I need to do in order to gain more responsibility and maybe become the project manager and have a direct interaction or, conversation, communication with the client, going over the operational part of things, right? And the way it started was just me becoming more involved and taking things outside of my scope, right? And I want to say that it was also very helpful to have a leader like her, to be open to that, right? And then really becoming, again, and now I'm talking about 15 years ago, but now with so many other, there's certifications. We talk a lot about the soft skills, right? How important those have become as well. So, um, you know back in my day, it was just really about hands-on. There's a lot of theory and certifications, but really leveraging my work environment then, that's kind of what, led me from one thing to another.
Thank you. Thank you. So, if I am allowed, I would like to ask another question. Because at the beginning, you mentioned the scale of the business. And in that way, I imagine being on a smaller company would be easier, for example, to reach out to a person or an engineer and ask about a technical topic, and then probably put into practice all those soft skills. But on a larger scale industry or company as yours, how to that kind of setting changes all those potential soft skills on, because probably everything is more abstract. You will be working only on over Zoom, probably something not really person-centered, but more like a remote position managing many teams at the same time. I don't know if I am mistaken, but I wanted to make emphasis on that big scale part, how that changes everything for the soft skills.
So just to make sure I understood the question, you're saying in the context of trillion with different firms?
Yes, the bigger scale that freedom has.
Skill?
Like the numbers, the bigger scale, like the big teams. So you are not actually interacting with one team, but with many at the same time. So that's what I mean, like the larger scale, the large numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think I said again that we are 14 different firms across the US, and yet we're all independent in the sense that we all have our own branding. And of course, my focus is 90% of more within Rinker Design Associates. But like the example that I gave earlier, um, the scale allow us to, having right now common processes, common systems. So it really helps us to enable that collaboration and really stay on top of, um, was referring to a forecasting system and knowing, okay, so this is how much capacity we have versus others. They may have extra demand. So that's what makes this, model really handy, for all of these work sharing opportunities, but also from a teaming opportunity, right? So right now we have folks here in Virginia that would have never done any work, say, for example, with the Georgia Department of Transportation, and we have people also working on those projects because it's easier to sell to the client and say, hey, we have a sister firms in Virginia that they have all these capabilities, and then, contractually we'll make it work, right? And again, I don't know if I answered your question, but
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, thank you so much. I think we had one to two questions more, but maybe like we are running out of time. I'm not sure. Like we have one in chat that how do you decide when to try a new idea and when to stay with the safe option?
um, yeah, I guess that's where the entrepreneurial spirit comes in, right? So I think I didn't realize I was still sharing, but um, I think there's always nothing wrong with trying new things, and that's something that I encourage everyone. And of course, context matters, right? Let's say you have a project that's due next week. You don't want to say, hey, I don't care about what we're doing right now. Let me try another way and I'll figure it out. I think that's where it comes the what I was referring earlier of think outside the box and maybe find some time to explore with any new other tools or processes. And then if you can prove it and you can see if it's working, then at that point you can share it with others, and then it can become from a simple idea, concept that you're testing it yourself to maybe having your own group, right? Like different testers. So I don't think it's my recommendation would never be don't do it, just stick to the usual. But also, again, context matters, and we always talk about this calculated risk, right? So just be conscious of of those things as well.
Sure. Yeah, sounds good. Thank you so much for answering the questions and thank you for the presentation. It was wonderful. I think I had one question, but we are, I think, on time, so maybe I'll email you the
I
question.
Feel free. I can say one more minute if you want it, but I also know we're on the time. I don't know.
Oh, sure. Then I can maybe quickly ask the questions. So I think you mentioned about the public-private partnership shaping future mobility, but I feel that most public-private partnerships, are designed around the fixed infrastructure. But what do you think about that, for something like inherently flexible, like the on-demand rural transit, and where demand is uncertain and routes aren't fixed? So what about in those situations about the like public-private partnership? How does that work?
I don't know if I understood the
So,
question. Can you
so
repeat
like
it?
Yeah, so you mentioned about the public-private
Mm-hmm.
partnership, like shaping future mobility. But
Mm-hmm.
like most of these partnerships frameworks were designed for the fixed infrastructure. But what would like a PPP structure look like for something inherently flexible, like on-demand rural transit where demand is
Yeah.
uncertain and routes aren't fixed?
Yeah, and I guess that's a million-dollar question, right? And we focus specifically on mobility on demand and as a service, right? So we're talking about integrated mobility and who owns the platform, right? So all those innovative technologies, and then yes, come out the fixed infrastructure that's technically a public asset. And there's just really, to collaboration. And these days, there's a lot around data, especially we talk about, who owns the asset. There's a lot about data privacy, and the public sector thinks we should be the ones. Why is the private sector gonna do it? And that has been one of the key challenges, I believe, for the deployment of mobility on demand as a service specifically, right? It's not a technology problem, right? It's more of the public-private. Now, I don't have a set answer and say, hey, this should be a privately held um, asset, right? And I think it can apply very differently depending on the context and on the country. So again, I don't have again, a direct answer to that question, but that's just my view, how I see it.
I agree. Yeah, I understand that. Okay. Thank you so much, Carlo, for your time and for the wonderful presentation. It was very insightful, and I hope that, everyone, learned something out of it and will be able to apply it in when they'll be going into the industries. And it was a pleasure having you today. Thank you so much once again. And looking forward to our next session tomorrow, which is by Dr. Jenny Gao, and she's from New York University. So hope to see everyone over there, and feel free. And I hope, like, if you can share your email ID, if you can share it with our guests today, and like if they will have any questions, so they can, like, if they want to reach out to you, does that work?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the
Yeah.
opportunity, Kamal, and everyone. It's always refreshing to come back to academia one way or another. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And for everyone else, see you all in tomorrow's session, which will be from 12 to 1 p.m. ET time zone. And for the central time zone, it will be like a different one. So make sure, like, in which time zone you are. Thank you for joining.